The flashback of the Phantom Troupe in the final chapters answered several important questions, but at the same time, it opened the door to 1 billion more. One of the most prominent questions, or rather one of the biggest mysteries, is Sheila's role in the current events. Is she dead? Is she on the ship? Or is she in the small world and has no connection to what is happening right now?
Sheila という女性が譲ってくれた本。そこには、ハンターという仕事をする主人公の冒険活劇が描かれていた。私たちは辞書を片手にその本を読みふけり。
First, let us recall some simple facts we know about Sheila's character. Sheila met Kurapika when he was a young child in the Kuruta village, and through this encounter we learned that she wanted to become a hunter and had a passion for adventure. This is one of the reasons she left Meteor City and the Phantom Troupe. Now, let's go back to the Hunter exam arc. When Kurapika was taking the exam, he never asked about Sheila's character. He never questioned whether she had passed the exam or tried to apply for it. He didn't search for any information about her, as Gon did when he looked for details about his father to get his hunter license. Kurapika never mentioned that a friend of his wanted to become a hunter, nor did he inquire about her or investigate her role in the massacre of his clan. There was no hint or mention of Sheila's character during the Hunter exam arc from Kurapika's side. You might say that Togashi, at this point in the story, had not yet invented or thought through everything to this extent. The best explanation is that he had not thought about Sheila's character yet and was still at the early stages of his ideas for the Hunter x Hunter story. This is a reasonable and acceptable point. Togashi himself even mentioned that the backstory of the Phantom Troupe was going to be in the York New City arc, but as ideas piled up, he put this flashback aside for the right time. However, what makes me go against this idea is that Togashi, from the very beginning of the story, had already prepared Kurapika's backstory with the massacre of his entire clan. This means that even before we got deep into this character, from the very start of the Hunter exam arc, Togashi had already mapped out Kurapika's path. This suggests that during that stage of the story in the 90s and early 2000s, Togashi had already thought about and outlined the scenario for the destruction of the Kuruta clan and the scenario for Sheila and the Phantom Troupe, or at least had a basic idea about it. So, back to the same question. Where is Sheila at this point in the story, and why didn't Kurapika hint at or mention her earlier? We only saw her in Kurapika's flashback and the Phantom Troupe's flashback. At the very least, Kurapika would have tried searching for her in an attempt to find any clue about the massacre of his clan. In the end, although Sheila is clearly one of the good characters, the massacre of the Kuruta clan happened shortly after she left. Now, from all this, let's try to reach one agreement that brings us together. Since Sheila is both Kurapika's and Krollo's friend, surely both of them will soon learn this fact. This means that Kurapika will learn about Sheila's connection to the Phantom Troupe, and Krollo will learn about her connection to Kurapika. So, how will this happen? It could be through news or conversation, meaning that Kurapika meets Krollo, and they have a discussion about the secret of the Kuruta massacre, leading them to this information about Sheila's character. For example, during a conversation between Kurapika and Krollo about the Kuruta massacre, either Kurapika or Krollo might mention Sheila's character. Through this, both of them will learn about the hidden connection between them. Or it could be through a symbolic object that both of them know, like the book Sheila left with Kurapika. This would open up the conversation about her character, mentioning her past and explaining her journey in the story from both Kurapika's and Krollo's perspectives. But this would apply if she were dead. What if she's alive and still on the ship, as many fans speculate? In that case, the knowledge would come through a meeting between the three, Sheila, Kurapika, and Krollo. If this actually happens, it would be extremely difficult to predict how the meeting will take place, how it will end, and what direction it will take. In the end, Krollo does understand Kurapika's character to some extent, and knows his suffering and his desire for revenge. But for Kurapika, Krollo is just a cold-blooded criminal. So will this triangular relationship continue in the Succession War arc, for example? Will the three meet, and the second story of the Phantom Troupe's past be discussed, linking it to Kurapika's past and Sheila's character, and the Kuruta massacre? Honestly, we don't know.
でもシャルがこの前サイトを調べた時にはチェックアウト済みだったはず。 こいつおそらくリーダーだ。
どんなやつ？
黒いコート着て
Currently, Kurapika is involved in the Succession War, protecting the princess and helping the Zodiacs in the Dark Continent. Meanwhile, Krollo is busy stealing Kakin's treasures, searching for a special ability, and planning to kill Hisoka. If we add Sheila's storyline to all of this, it becomes hard to predict. But Togashi will certainly turn the events around and surprise us with carefully crafted twists, as we know his level very well. Of course, some will ask, what is Sheila's connection to the ship and the journey to the Dark Continent for Togashi to make this excessive link? Personally, I was more inclined to think Sheila had passed away, but after the recent chapters, I now have my doubts about this. I wouldn't be surprised if she is on the ship, or even has a reason to go to the Dark Continent. If we mention characters who have a love for adventure, exploration, and the DNA of a hunter in the Hunter x Hunter story, Sheila would definitely be among them, alongside Jin, Beyond, Kite, Satotsu, and Gon. She is, after all, the one who sparked this desire in Kurapika and Bairo. So, connecting her to the Dark Continent is not difficult. You must read Volume 0 if you don't understand what I mean, and see how Sheila's character had a great desire to become a hunter and explore the world. That's why I said earlier that it's strange that Kurapika didn't mention Sheila during the Hunter exam. Let's not forget that Togashi mentioned there is a second story that will be told through another character about Kurapika's flashback, or Volume 0. There are several secrets that were not clarified in the story of the Phantom Troupe and Kurapika, such as, for example, how did Kurapika know that the Phantom Troupe killed his clan? The symbol that was placed on the Kuruta tribe's bodies, which says, "We take anything from you, so don't take anything from us," is specific to Meteor City, not specifically to the Phantom Troupe. Also, the mystery of Sarasa's death and the message left on her forehead, and also the secret of the message and why Krollo changed in the second flashback, which Togashi didn't fully show, only providing a page of it. So, if we say that all of this will be revealed in a unified flashback that ties together Meteor City, the Kuruta clan, Kurapika, and the Phantom Troupe, then it's certain that the appearance or mention of Sheila will clarify all of this.
なぜだろうな。関係ないからじゃないか。いや、改めて問われると答えがたいものだな。動機の言語化か。あまり好きじゃないしな。
Some might say that this is impossible, that it's not feasible to introduce a character who has never appeared in the events before and build something as significant as this on them. I strongly disagree, because what Togashi did with the characters of Broxin and Longi and how he turned them into important characters in simple events is much harder. And when we add to all of this the fourth prince and Bairo's head, the situation becomes extremely complicated. Of course, I know that the majority will suggest the scenario that the prince is one of the reasons for the Kuruta massacre, and that he is also involved in what happened to the children of Meteor City, and that Kurapika and Krollo will join forces against him. Leaving aside my opposing perspective on this scenario, introducing the fourth prince into this event really makes you lose track of which way is up. We know that the prince's monstrous side is shaped by his character and upbringing, but if Bairo's head is on Serdnich's shelf, and also in the mouth of his Nen beast, what connection does Bairo have to the fourth prince's character? Did something happen between them to the extent that Bairo would have such a significant influence on the prince's character? And since Bairo is also a friend of Sheila's, is there a connection between Sheila and Serdnich? Will Togashi invent this connection in the upcoming events? When I say the situation is complicated, believe me, it really is. Although I'm not convinced by all of this, I wouldn't be surprised if Togashi did something similar.
あくまで試験じゃぞ。条件は24時間以内に日の目にならずに無事買い物をして帰ってくること。
え？パートナー？あパイロがいい。
The Phantom Troupe, Sheila, Serdnich, Kurapika, Bairo, Meteor City, and the Kuruta clan. This is a real mystery, and it's hard to deduce the conclusion without Togashi explaining it in the upcoming events. There's something I mentioned on my other channel years ago, which is that Kurapika has 5 years of his life we don't know about. From the Kuruta massacre to the Hunter exam, we have no idea what Kurapika did during this period. And of course, during this exact period, Kurapika learned that the Phantom Troupe were the ones who killed his clan. clan. So one might wonder to himself, was Sheila's character with Kurapika during that time? We remember that in Volume 0, it was mentioned that a female traveler got lost and found the bodies of the clan members, then spread the news to the world. Could this traveler be Sheila? We don't know. Most likely no. The phrase, "she got lost on the way," doesn't make any sense, especially since she had visited the place before. But what if we said that she tried to tell Kurapika about the massacre in this way? Perhaps that's a reasonable possibility. In other words, she might not have found Kurapika's body among the Kuruta corpses and tried to reach him this way, although it would be difficult.
魔の命を取る。
本当にこれでいいのか。
In the Phantom Troupe flashback, when they formed the group because of Sarasa's death, we saw that Sheila had left the troupe and didn't care about their future plans or the path they would take. One of the reasons for this is that the relationship between Sheila and the rest of the troupe wasn't that strong. This is somewhat clarified when Crollo asked Pakonda to mediate for him, to convince Sheila and Sarasa to help him with the dubbing. At that time, Sheila commented that she would only participate if Sarasa participated. It's clear that the closest people to Sheila were Sarasa and Pakonda. When I remember that child who read the adventures of the Hunter D with Sheila is the same one who has the ability that led to Pakonda's death. I'm certain that Togashi didn't just complicate the events, but also the character's emotions and drama. This increases my excitement to see Sheila's character again, or at least her flashback. Anyway, since we know from Crollo that the path she would take was opposed by Sarasa, and since Sheila was the closest to her, it could be said that Sheila didn't choose the path of revenge because she knew her deceased friend would oppose it. But will she forget it completely? We don't know. In conclusion, since Togashi has established Sheila as a friend of both Kurapika and Crollo, this trio's connection will surely be revealed in the upcoming chapters. The remaining issue we face is whether this connection will be revealed while Sheila is alive or after her death. We'll wait for Togashi to answer all of this and continue telling one of the greatest stories of all time.